Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we're discussing my thoughts on episode 16 of the anime series Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. And holy crap. Oh man, little did I suspect that this would play so closely to my speculations. One of my speculations I put forth in my previous video, and have been speculating largely with you guys in the comments over the last few videos as to the fate of Fumitan in this episode. It's one of those things where it's like, I didn't expect it to play out this soon, and it speaks to that lack of subtlety that I was talking about maybe an episode or two ago now in this series, where something just debuts and the next episode is where the culmination is. You know, you think of Akihiro's brother, and you think of Biscuit's brother. I mean, these things are mentioned, and then boom, here they are. And it was quite lacking in subtlety, the whole build-up in the backdrop of this revolutionary, sort of effect being forced into effect. And all those, players being aligned on the field forcibly so, with machinations and manipulations in the background. And so here we have Fumitan, and she very much, almost literally word for word, what I suspected. A shot is fired at Cordelia, and she gets in the way of it. And I didn't know whether or not we would ever get any sort of perceptibility as to what her motivations there were. And a lot of this episode is her own internal, still, internally struggling with the decisions she's made and being forced into this position. We gain a little bit more, information about that to a point. That's the one thing. For their lacking of subtlety in just putting this all forth, explosively so, they do remain subtle with the revelations as to what Fumitan's motivations were, what that background was. We're only getting hints and whispers about that, and it's tragic now to me, because now I want to know that much more about Fumitan. She's dead, and I wanted to know more about her. What were her motivations? We find that she was a product of, poverty and everything like that. She was very much sort of disdainful against a family like the Bernsteins and everything, and Cordelia, especially, she was hateful toward her innocence and that very much black and white, good versus bad mentality that she had. She could see clearly what was wrong with the world, and it was a very black and white thing. Even though the world is made up of various shades of gray, Cordelia was very much sort of a, pinpoint of seeing all of this in the good and the bad. She could chuck it all in one bin or the other. And even, bearing witness to the impoverished when Fumitan took her on a tour of some of the more downtrodden, Martian colonists and everything, and she's handing out candy and all this stuff. This was meant to break Cordelia, but rather it strengthened her. And when they're looking over the book with the artist's portrait of revolutionaries and a woman with a child on her bosom, it's something motivational toward Fumitan, but also, she can't help but hate it, because she knows that's what, Cordelia can and probably will by now, in the modern sense. This is what she can and will embody. And she doesn't want to see that taken out. Like, she has that change of heart where it does seem like, because we see her strong-armed a little bit by some of, I can only assume it's Nobless's men, saying, you know what you're supposed to do, don't falter now or we're coming after you, kind of situation. I kind of hope we had a little more, maybe like Fumitan has a little brother that's being held or something like that. It's not just for her own life and her own benefit, like, we're going to kill you unless you position Cordelia where we need her to be and all this kind of stuff. I wish we knew that there was more going on, and that could still happen. I mean, Cordelia could still find out at some point, somebody could reveal that, in fact, Fumitan had a sibling or a child or something that was being held hostage, being threatened to manipulate her into this position, whatever the case may be. I don't know. Maybe that's hoping for a little too much. But I that's the thing. I'm left so desperate to know more about Fumitan. She was a really standout character for all of her being sort of enigmatic and suspicious and all that kind of stuff. Like, now to just have her taken out and never having any answers as to why, or at least clarification, as to why she did all this. Was it just because she looked down upon Cordelia and her innocence and her seeing the world in that black and white and knowing the wrong for what it was and everything like that, and having these ideals, these sort of naive ideals as far as what she could do to hopefully change the world for the better, which Fumitan herself never really would have considered possible. You know, it's not real. It's not reality as far as Fumitan was concerned, and she really was about breaking Cordelia and breaking that resolve, breaking those ideals, and making her forcibly see the world for how it really is. And yet Cordelia would never back down. She has never backed down. So the strength within her, that is why she embodies hope. That is why we have that parallel between Cordelia and that portrait from that book. And Fumitan realizes this, and she comes to sort of, resignation in that fact, but she makes that sacrificial act anyway, because now that change of heart, she sees Cordelia for the better sort of mentality and the hope that she can represent. Maybe she, by just her sheer existence, can, prove to others that life is worth living and all these kinds of things. And so it broke my heart to see Fumitan take that shot and die and sort of, in her last breaths, try to explain where she was coming from to Cordelia. Cordelia being very much in shock, and of course we saw that Mikazuki and Atra had been looking for her and split, part ways. You had that nice touching moment between Mikazuki and Atra as well, where he rubs and caresses her cheek and, are you going to be okay, and everything like that. So we see that he very deeply cares for her. I don't know that it's a romantic thing. It could just be like almost brotherly, caring about a younger sister or something like that. I mean, you can read into it whatever you want. It's open to interpretation for the moment. But to see that humanity coming out of Mikazuki was very welcome, because it's such a rare thing to see. And in his finding Cordelia, he has to sort of drag her away because she thinks Fumitan is still there, and it's very much cut and dry with his telling her, and it silences her, but that's not Fumitan anymore. And so many times does that scenario actually relate to my own life, losses and such like that, and it's just like that you're looking at the empty shell of what was the person you loved or knew and everything, and it's just they're not there anymore. And so it was touching, and it was kind of heartbreaking, and it's that much more heartbreaking just from a story perspective as well as a viewer perspective, being invested in what is going on. Like I say, I wanted to know more about Fumitan and what motivated her to this. Maybe that's something that will be as yet, coming down the line. But of course, then you're dealing with the entirety of this backdrop where, basically the Dork colonies are being attacked from within. It seems like it's all been insinuated by Gjallarhorn itself to make it appear as though there are revolutionary and terrorist actions taking effect. So they have the excuse to mow down the entirety of these revolutionaries, which they don't even have any effective weapons. They're ineffectual. And at the start, they really just want to talk. They want to actually break bread and talk about this. But the Earth governments, Gjallarhorn, they aren't having it. And all of these innocent lives are mowed down. It's not just Fumitan. And it's just like, it's appalling and it's despicable. And it's that much more disheartening to know this stuff is happening in our real world every day in other countries and everything. Stuff exactly like this. Whether it's, to gain a country's oil or to, sort of depose a regime of power or whatever, it's just, it's insanity. And now the insanity is in full swing in this series. That much more so, I have to say, with that last little bit where you have McMurdo, Mr. Tewaz himself, making this call to Nobliss and just being like, well, I see what you were trying to do. Didn't quite work out. How's about we partner up? And then we'll see what happens. And, yeah. That's going to play out so well for Tekkadan and everything like that. Very much, again, living up to that speculation, that point of discussion wherein I said, Oruga and Tekkadan, they have no idea what they've just gotten involved with. Even going back to, you know, becoming part of Teiwaz and everything like that, all hell is going to break loose. Literally, it's like all hell from every possible direction. All hell is going to break loose, and it's pitched to just utmost insanity. And, holy hell. Like, my God. It looks like mobile suits are going to be thrown down in the next episode, you know, everything like that. And, damn. Hell of an episode. And very much a turning point, since we are being promised with the next episode that this will be Cordelia's choice. And I think it's pretty much safe bet, you know, what she's going to choose to do. She's probably going to be that Valkyrie, that maiden to the revolution, as people need her and have positioned her to be. And at least it seems like McMurdo has the estimation that if she's alive for the time being, they can get more out of the scenario. So maybe they won't be so quick to try to whack her again. You know, but still, it's just insane. So, yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 16 of Iron-Blooded Orphans. If you agree with me that we really should have and could have gotten a lot more depth out of the Fumitan character, and, you know, finding more out about her background and motivations, whether or not you think and or speculate that that could still be stuff coming as yet, or if you think that's it, that's, you know, the end of her involvement in any way, shape, or form in the story as we move forward, and what you thought of the episode overall, if you were as taken aback by the appalling nature of how this was all positioned and all the lives that were lost just to have this revolutionary terrorist effect, you know, to create that perpetual war machine and such like that. Always love hearing from you guys, and we can always agree to disagree. It doesn't matter. Take it or leave it, love it or hate it. Anything goes in the comments below. Just love having that conversation. And yeah, otherwise that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.